Because they did fail to qualify for the league phase for the UEFA Champions League. For the second straight season, José Mourinho paid the price, being fired for that failure. The Turkish Giants have fired Mourinho as manager after just over a year in charge. And Fenerbahçe, they lost to Benfica in Champions League qualifying earlier this week, failing to reach the league phase despite heavy spending in the transfer market. So, guys, Fenerbahçe clearly had some really big goals when bringing in José Mourinho, and they never made Champions League with him. Do you think, Liam, that it was a realistic goal for them to set that, bringing in José Mourinho to Fenerbahçe?
Clearly, with the speed in which he's gone, there was a mandate for him to get them into that Champions League. But we're talking about a team who haven't won a league title in years and years and years. He has 1 year to go in there and get them ready to compete in the Champions League. And if you don't win the league, you have to go through the playoff system. And I think it's a gamble that you have to win games that... It's not just based on a whole season. You have to go and win games that are one-off games. And I think José Mourinho at Fenerbahçe, yes, you can say he spent a lot of money, but this isn't a club who have had good Champions League reputation over the last few years.
Come on, Liam. You just saw the first picture there. It said the special one.
Yeah, he is the special one. But
he clearly wasn't there, was he?
I think José Mourinho is a downfall of his own success. In his early years, he won so much. He was the one who would go in with all the bravado. What do you want a man to do in 1 year at a club who have had no previous experience in the Champions League in recent years? I think he went in there...
Okay,
you're being nice to him. Answering the question, it didn't work out.
What you say, if for sure it didn't work out, I'll grab what you say and say, okay, sure, maybe not compete in the Champions League, but bare minimum qualify. This is a team that hasn't made the Champions League in 17 years. When you look across the aisle and Galatasaray is winning league after league after league after league, when you haven't won in 11 years. I mean, we're talking the likes of Istanbul Başakşehir winning the league more recently than Fenerbahçe. I mean, we're talking the likes of Trabzonspor winning the Turkish Super League before Fenerbahçe. When you bring in Mourinho, you bring him in to win the big games because all the other Fenerbahçe managers were beating the likes of Samsunspor and Malatyaspor and Çaykur Rizespor. You need to beat Galatasaray. You need to beat Beşiktaş, which he didn't, by the way. And not only that, at least make it to Champions League. Sure, in the first time out, you lost to Lille. Difficult. You can lose to Lille in the qualifying stages. But now you lost to Benfica at the doorstep and you didn't even score a goal with the super team that you put together?
I just think in playoff games, you're talking about cup finals, and you can lose cup finals.
No, listen, if you look at it overall, the bigger project is this. José Mourinho has been a successful manager. He's a special one. He gets it done most places he goes. If you get brought in by Fenerbahçe, this is what we want. This is the goal. Get us back in the Champions League. He didn't do that. And there's nothing else that matters. He didn't get them where they wanted to be, the promised land of the Champions League. So it's hard to look at this to say it's a success. He's a manager that backs himself. He's not lacking confidence. He knows his ability. I played against José Mourinho's teams. I've met José Mourinho. He's an absolute character. He will never doubt himself. But overall, when you look at this picture, it's not going to be deemed as a success because we're bringing you for this reason. We're not bothered about the Turkish title. We're bringing you in to get us to the Champions League. And he spent a lot of money. He's had some good players come into this club, but it just hasn't worked out.
Yeah, I know he said he wanted to bring in at least 12 new players, and he has brought people in. But I think the time in which he's had to do it, I think there were signs of improvement for Fenerbahçe, but I don't think it does José Mourinho's reputation any harm that he hasn't got into the Champions League. I think he's still a manager that players would want to play under. He's still someone who, if he walked into a dressing room, would command respect.
That I agree with. That I agree with. Like, Mourinho's Mourinho. I think he does command respect everywhere he goes and wherever he goes next. That's going to happen because the figure of José Mourinho is... it feels like it's bigger than life, right? It's bigger than the actual person. But if you bring in a manager, there's several lists of managers that have gone through at Fenerbahçe, Jorge Jesus, Ismail Kartal, that didn't achieve Champions League. You bring in Jose. You don't bring in Jose to get the same result. You bring him to do something different. And if the bare minimum of making Champions League is on the checklist something that you don't check off, I understand why Fenerbahçe wants to walk the other way. Sure, maybe perhaps they aren't the ideal signings that José Mourinho would have wanted, but you're always, when in Istanbul, you're always compared across the aisle to Beşiktaş and to Galatasaray. Ole got sacked because he couldn't get Beşiktaş over the line in the Conference League to make Conference League proper. José Mourinho is going to suffer the same fate.
I would describe José Mourinho like this. It's like when you have a top player that you might not want to sell at this time, he's at his prime, and then you've got the people above your head who are the accountants and the business side of football say, we can make X amount of money on shirt sales. Jose Mourinho is the only manager to that equivalent. Whatever club he goes up to next, you're going to get the media attention. You're going to get everything that comes with it. You're going to get so much attention just because of him being at your football club, where he will get the attention to your club. So some people might like that and want that, and that's the type of manager that he is. In this case here, he failed. He didn't get the job done of what Fenerbahçe required. And he did the typical Jose Mourinho. You've heard all the moaning that he's done about this country smells, the refereeing is poor, this and that. And it just didn't work out for him. It doesn't mean he's a bad manager. I feel in the right fit he could be. If he's given a time to have a project, he could definitely be successful. I can think of quite a few clubs right now who would be happy to take Jose Mourinho because he matches the fan base and matches what he'll be like. I mean, listen, not going to say anything right now. It's not a great start for West Ham United in the Premier League, and I know the fan base well. Jose Mourinho and the team, the squad that West Ham have right now, just to survive in the Premier League, he probably could be a good fit to go to that club.
The only thing that smelled in Turkey was Fenerbahçe's performances in big games under Mourinho.
Yeah. But again, his managing style hasn't changed. If I'm talking from a tactics standpoint and point of view, Nico, this is how he's always managed. He's never going to play attacking front foot football. He's going to be very structured, defensively, hard to beat, maybe get a goal and then sit back and defend on it. That was always his managerial style. And for me, the game's moved on a little bit that he needs to slightly adapt, but he has to have that kind of style of players and team to be successful.
I don't know with Mourinho when he became the man just to fix immediate problems. When did he become the manager who just goes somewhere for one goal?
No, definitely not.
The Champions League?
He's the icing. He's the cherry on top. He's the cherry on top. If it's well structured, everything is there. He could probably do it. But the thing is, people have to understand is the generation of players have changed. There's a lot you have to do. You just have to look at different clubs and what they're going through now. How these players are motivated isn't the same way that Jose Mourinho was managed. You're talking about him managing John Terry, Michael Essien, all these superstars at the prime at that time, to where you didn't have to have a manager tell them that they didn't have a good game. They had so much self-respect of him themselves that they knew and they took responsibility on themselves when the game was full of a lot more leaders. The modern game doesn't have as many leaders now as when Jose Mourinho was at the height of his career. One of his biggest successes probably have to be at Manchester United. And I agree with him with that one. When he took Manchester United to finish second, that is the biggest achievement. When you look at Manchester United now, he's 100% right in saying that.
Yeah, I mean, he was the one that, one of the few whistleblowers at Manchester United after in the post-Sir Alex Ferguson era. I do agree with you that the modern game has changed. I do think, though, in Istanbul, it's a little bit still old-school mentality with the way that the media treats the players and a little bit rougher than in 100%. England, I mean, for example.
He didn't have the dynamism in Fenerbahçe, though. You can't play like that so much with the older players, experienced players.
Philosophically,
it's just going to be so defensively structured. There was no real outlet, no attacking prowess. Galatasaray got Osimhen, Victor Osimhen, one of the best strikers in world football. Well, if he doesn't score, he'll create. Fenerbahçe didn't have that. They don't have that.
Philosophically, from the beginning, I scratched my head at the appointment of Jose Mourinho because he would have had to adapt his game. Because you don't need Jose Mourinho to beat Bodrum. You know, I'm going to go back to this whole thing because Fenerbahçe was already beating these teams handedly. There were so many Super League seasons that were defined in a derby. In Fenerbahçe Galatasaray, it was literally the anticipation building up to those games because whoever won in those two iterations ended up being the champion because everybody else, they would go undefeated, especially Beşiktaş dropped off significantly in the last couple of years. It's been a disaster at Beşiktaş. So really, the games that you need to win, that Jose Mourinho was brought to win, were the big games, and they didn't. I'm thinking about the second go-around last season against Galatasaray. They lost in the first iteration, and in the second iteration, it felt like, Fener, give me a little bit more enthusiasm, a little bit more attacking prowess. And I think it's just very symbolic that the last game, the last tie, the knockout tie, and Mourinho's a knockout specialist. Let's remember that not only did he win with Chelsea, Porto, he also won with Roma Conference League. He goes out scoring 0 goals over 2 legs.
And he said that Fenerbahçe is better suited for this competition than the Champions League, and then now he's no longer there.
You can see both sides of this. Fenerbahçe have been miles off it for years. He's absolutely right. You know, not a cat in hell's chance of Fenerbahçe winning the Champions League. It's just not going to happen. Europa League, it's possible. He was a realist. Perhaps what they didn't like there were 2 things. 1, he called it as he saw it. He called it straight. And 2, they didn't like his results. So the 2 things added together meant time to go.
Yeah, definitely. And in his post-game press, not the press conference, the flash interview right afterwards, he was actually asked about his links to Nottingham Forest. And before we get to Nottingham Forest's schedule in the Europa League, do you potentially see a good fit between José Mourinho and Nottingham Forest?
Yeah, José Mourinho and Marinakis. Wow, that could be interesting, couldn't it? Listen, there isn't a vacancy there right now, so we'll be accused of causing trouble. And as you well know, there's another former Tottenham manager who's being linked with that post that isn't vacant at the moment. So, look, José Mourinho is always going to bring you something. And I was listening to you guys as well. I agree. I don't think he's a busted flush because of this. I think it would have been very difficult for whoever went there. Could he have done better? Yeah, no question. Maybe he just wasn't the right fit. Maybe he didn't suit them and they didn't suit him. Has he still got something to offer in football? Absolutely. You know, and it's not just yesterday's glories. He still brings an aura with him. I think he's still got the fire in him. And I think he would like nothing more than to prove people wrong and to prove he can still win football's big prizes. Where the next opportunity will be for him is difficult to say, but I do think there'll be opportunities for him.
Well, Jeff, I agree with you on that. I think for me personally, José Mourinho has never been shy about his love for English football in the Premier League. And with a lot of managers right now on shaky ground in the Premier League, I will not be surprised with a return for José Mourinho in the Premier League.
Yeah, I heard your little tip-up of West Ham there, Nigel. Do you already know something that we don't?
No, I don't know nothing. I'm just saying for me, is Graham Potter's under difficult circumstances at West Ham, doesn't have the players that he needs to be successful, and it's not all Graham Potter's fault. But we know how demanding the fan base is, and sometimes you have to think outside the box, and, you know, people running these clubs and making these decisions, and that manager there could be a manager that comes in with everything that we just saw to cover all over the cracks of past mistakes that might have been made in the transfer market. But the team and the players that West Ham have could suit a José Mourinho just to survive this year, and then you can progress after that. So I don't think West Ham fans will be too against having a José Mourinho manager like him at their club.
Jeff, great journalistic instinct prodding the West Ham captain about West Ham information. Maybe Nigel is seeing something in the water that we're not seeing.